All right, happy Thanksgiving week. Hopefully everyone is doing well out there. We are going to do a video on an article that is up on ESPN.com on the top under the radar transactions from this past offseason and how it has impacted rosters. It is actually one of my favorite articles to write during the year because we are not talking about drama. We're not talking about Brooklyn. We're not talking about the Lakers. We're not talking about team turmoil. We're actually talking about on the court basketball. Good things, right? Good things in Sacramento. Good things in Indiana. Good things in Portland. Good things for some of these players that signed $1.8 million contracts that are not guaranteed, like Yuta Watanabe in Brooklyn, who's leading the league in three-point percentage here. So we're going to do a video on this. The article is on ESPN.com. You can also find it on my Instagram page. I am actually back from the dead on Instagram. I don't think I've used it since July when I said that Steph Curry was better than LeBron James, and I got death threats. But I figured we'd have to bring back Instagram because who the hell knows what's going to happen with Twitter. So I said, we've got to make a decision there. So it is on Instagram. You can find that there. Also ESPN.com. We are starting in Sacramento. And before we do this, there's nothing in the article regarding Utah, certainly with the Gobert and Donovan Mitchell trade, as well as Cleveland with the Mitchell trade here, because we have written ad nauseum how that has worked out for Utah, whether it be Lauri Markkanen and Colin Sexton and Donovan Mitchell here. So we wanted to kind of shift gears a little bit. I do mention it in a little bit in the opening here, as far as some of these other moves here, but what is going on in Sacramento here? I mean, that is one of the great success stories right now. It's crazy. I have a junior who is in high school. He is 16 years old. He was born when the Kings made the playoffs the last time in 2006. It is unbelievable. And we're not supposed to be rooting for teams. You know, we're supposed to be kind of neutral for everyone here. And it is hard not to root for Sacramento. I'm watching the Detroit game, and that place is alive. Good for those people in Sacramento who have been dying for a competitive team the last 15 to 16 years here. They hired a great coach in Mike Brown, who's in Golden State. Kevin Huerter, Malik Monk, Keegan Murray. De'Aaron Fox is playing at a high level. Sabonis, Harrison Barnes, like everything has worked right now. And we're filming this video on Monday, 6 games in a row in the tops in offensive efficiency, three-point shooting. I mean, you name it. It is a high-powered offense here. And the Huerter trade has been tremendous for Atlanta. I mean for Sacramento. You have to understand, certainly from Atlanta's perspective, why they did it. They just traded for Dejounte Murray. They owed Huerter $64 million. Murray eventually in 2024 was going to be a free agent. You cannot pay everyone on this roster. You pick up a first-round pick that you had lost in the trade to San Antonio, although it's protected. You free up certainly money there. You stay under the luxury tax. So you understood it from Atlanta's perspective, but for Sacramento, based on what they gave up, remember, they gave up Justin Holiday, who's a rotational player. They gave up Mo Harkless, who's no longer in the NBA, and then they gave up a lottery pick in 2024 to Atlanta here for a guy who signed a 4-year, $64 million extension last year with the Hawks. Career high, 16.6 points, 49.5 from 3. I mean, it's remarkable. The only player shooting 58% off the dribble, the highest in the league. A tremendous year, 20 games for Kevin Huerter so far in a low-risk trade for Sacramento. It's paid off dividends here. Opens up the floor. Certainly the Keegan Murray drafting for him, in June. Had a strong summer league. Has struggled a little bit here. 36% from 3, which ranks in the top 6 among all rookies. 7 games of double-digit points, 22 points in a career high versus Miami. I think he's going to be fine. And certainly the Malik Monk addition, who was thrown out in that Detroit game. It feels like whenever I write something about a team, like I am the mush, because I wrote about Indiana in this article, and we're going to talk about them first. And I sent the article in on Friday, and all of a sudden they're down like 40 to 23 to Houston on Friday night. I wrote about the Wizards last year, about the Westbrook trade. I think I called it at the time one of the great trades of all time, and I think they went in the tank after that. I wrote about Sacramento, and they're losing most of the game against Detroit, and I'm thinking like, golly gee, God, I am like the kiss of death for this. But Malik Monk, cap casualty with the Lakers. They can only have signed him for $6.5 million. He gets 2 for $19.4 million. I think the most important thing is that there's no player option in there. He is a straight free agent. Close to 37% from three, but I think the most important thing is, in what stands out, is 4.2 assists, a career high, per cleaning the glass, which is a tremendous sight. 85th percentile in usage. Last year, he was in the 45th percentile. So the ball is in his hands more. Sacramento is a great story. I think they will be in the top 10 when this thing is over. Can they stay in the top 6? I don't know. I mean, everybody's kind of just jammed up right now. Nobody in the Western Conference is, giving themselves separation. So great story in Sacramento. Hopefully that continues. Certainly Portland, have lost a couple in a row. There's another team, right? I wrote about Jeremy Grant in Brian Windhorst's column last Tuesday, who has played great, and how that CJ McCollum trade turned into Grant. I think he went out and shot 1 for 5 in the Brooklyn loss and had 5 points. I'm like, golly gee, can we catch a break here? But we have a section about Portland as far as the challenges of expediting a rebuild around Damian Lillard coming off that season last year, coming in the lottery. Certainly health plays a lot into this also. I mean, that Portland team was decimated with injuries. You go out and you do the Grant trade, who has played, prior to the 2 games I put the mush on, close to 20 points per games, 48% on threes, ranks in the top 5 among, players who have shot 50%. I think the biggest thing in Portland is their defense. They ranked in 7th in defensive efficiency. Big wings, right? Grant, Josh Hart, Justice Winslow. They, in that stretch from 2019-20 to last year, they ranked in the bottom defensively here. So you had that mantra of trying to outscore teams. Now they are kind of have a little bit of identity. Shaedon Sharpe has been good in the small sample games that he's played. He was their first round pick in June. Certainly the Powell and Covington trade, I talked about it last week in Windhorst article, that opened up some savings. You re-sign Anthony Simons, Joseph Nurkic, Gary Payton, who has not played at all because of an injury, and you still be able to remain under the luxury tax. So good things in Portland as of Monday, 10-6, best start since 18-19. That's when they went to the Western Conference Finals. Indiana, another great story. When they made the Malcolm Brogdon trade, everybody was lauding Boston, rightfully so. I mean, you look at the package: Daniel Tice, Aaron Naismith, Juwan Morgan, Nick Stauskas, Malik Fitz, a protected first in 2023 for Brogdon, a career 18, 19-point scorer. Right? Hey, if you're Boston, it's worked out. You just got to keep Brogdon on the court from a health standpoint. This is why it's hard to evaluate trades in the offseason. How to give grades to teams in the offseason here, until you start playing and seeing how the impact. By removing Brogdon, it's basically opened up playing time for Halliburton, more playing time for Halliburton, Buddy Hield, and Benedict Mathurin, right? I mean, Halliburton has been tremendous. And I'm a Halliburton guy based from the draft. 20-10 this year, shooting 40%, would be the only player to average 20 points, 10 assists, and 40% on threes in a season. That is unbelievable as far as that stat. He is playing at a high level. Hield is averaging 3.9 made threes this year. His trade value is certainly increasing. 56% of shooting 50% in the paint, up from 50%. And Mathurin has a chance to do something that nobody, I don't think anybody has ever done, win Rookie of the Year and Sixth Man of the Year. 6 20-point games a season, all off the bench, the most by any player off the bench this year. And that Brogdon trade removed $67 million off your books. As I mentioned, it opened up the playing time. I don't know what's going to happen with Indiana right now. They're 10-6. Who the hell knows? But it's a great story. And they're another team, like, what happens when we get closer to the trade deadline with Buddy Hield, excuse me, Miles Turner. My God, I'm losing my voice. Miles Turner, take a sip. They're like Utah with Clarkson and Conley and Malik Beasley and Kelly Olynyk. Do you hold on to these players who might have some trade value around a league to maybe get into the playoffs if you're not a playing team? So maybe they fall back to the pack, I know. But the interesting thing is with the success in Indiana, Washington playing well, excuse me, is that it is going to bump Chicago from the mix. It could bump Miami from the mix. We'll see what happens in Brooklyn. It's going to bump some of these teams out of the top 10. So great story in Indiana. Credit to that front office. As far as big picture approach, Brogdon didn't fit. Parlay, get a pick out of it. Opens up playing time for Halliburton, Mathurin, and Hield. We've got a big section on the under $3 million club, headlined by Bol. You can go out and read that. But here are some of the other names that have played well. Guys who have signed for less than $3 million. Javon Carter in Milwaukee. Goran Dragic and Andre Drummond in Chicago. I am concerned about Chicago. 6-10 as of Monday. The Zach LaVine 1 for 14 getting benched in that Orlando game. I am royally concerned about them. Who else do we have here? Damian Lee in Phoenix has been tremendous. I mean, he's part of that closing unit. Sam Hauser in Boston. Good spark off the bench. 3 years, $5.7 million contract. That is a value signing. And then we've talked about some more. Monty Morris in Washington. KCP in Denver. 2 players that were traded for each other. Bobby Portis in Milwaukee. Great season so far. Christian Wood has been tremendous coming off the bench in Dallas. 3 of the players in that trade, Trey Burke, Sterling Brown, Marquise Chris, no longer in the NBA. 17.5, 7.5 rebounds in 25 minutes. He is probably your favorite for 6th man of the year right now. Bruce Brown in Denver. Assist rate, career high. Royce O'Neal, Edmund Sumner, Yuta Watanabe in Brooklyn. I mean, Watanabe, great story. 1.8 million, non-guaranteed minimum, leading the league in 3-point percentage, and then certainly Bojan Bogdanovic in Detroit. One of 3 players, Curry and Jokic, to average 20 points and 60% effective field goal percentage. He signed that extension. He is trade eligible. Keep an eye on him. When we get closer to the trade deadline, I'm starting to do some work on my big trade guides, which takes me forever. But Bogdanovic is a name to keep an eye on with this Detroit team that is likely without Cade Cunningham for the foreseeable future. So those are your under-the-radar transactions from the offseason. Certainly Sacramento, Portland, Indiana, all those guys that signed for these bargain contracts. Certainly Bol is a great story just based on his journey. Remember, he failed that physical last January, going from Denver to Detroit. Detroit failed him. Then he was traded to Boston in a salary dump in the Bryn Forbes trade. Then the Celtics traded him in a tax dump. Goes to do Orlando, is out for the year, and then they signed him to a 2-year, I think $4.4 million. Second year is non-guaranteed. So go on ESPN.com. The article is up. Hopefully everyone has a great week. Enjoy your Thanksgiving, and stay safe out there.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.